Recognized for your questions.
Thank you, Senator Peters, and thank you and Ranking Member Portman for this hearing. And Secretary Mayorkas, thank you for coming before the committee today to discuss critical resources that are needed to protect the homeland. I want to start with a question about Title 42. While your April 26 memo summarizing the Department of Homeland Security's plan for Southwest border security and preparedness in anticipation of the lifting of Title 42 included more detail than it had before, I remain concerned about the Department's ability to get additional much-needed resources to the border. Your memo states that the Department has, quote, been able to manage increased encounters because of prudent planning and execution, close quote. But during my trip to McAllen, Texas, and Nogales, Arizona in early April, I heard from border security personnel on the ground that they were still struggling to manage the historically high number of people who they were already encountering, and that they anticipate a significant increase in attempted crossings if the Title 42 restrictions are lifted. Mr. Secretary, what should give us confidence that the Department can handle even more attempted crossings if it is already struggling with the current situation?
Senator, there's no question that the Border Patrol agents are under strain, and I've been very candid and straightforward with respect to the fact that once the operation of Title 42 comes to an end, we anticipate that strain to increase, which is why we are delivering greater resources to them. We have entered into a contract, for example, for hundreds of case processors to do the processing of individuals encountered in between the ports of entry so we can push those Border Patrol agents out into the field. That is a very strong example of what we are doing. And why you should have confidence is because this is what the extraordinary personnel of the Department of Homeland Security do. They plan, they prepare, and they execute to meet the mission.
I agree that we have extraordinary personnel at the border and throughout the country, and I'm very, very grateful to them each and every day. But I would suggest to you that a plan does not necessarily deliver resources. We need to make sure that the actual resources for the anticipated increase are there. And I will continue to push to make sure that that happens.
Senator, if I may, because that plan is quite comprehensive, because it's not just about resources. It's about attacking the transnational criminal organizations and the smuggling organizations.
Mr. Secretary, I have limited time, so I appreciate that. And I appreciate the overall plan. My issue is making sure that we have the resources in place and the execution capacity before Title 42 is lifted. And a plan and that capacity are two different things. And that's what I hope to continue to work with you and your team on and push the administration on. I want to turn to the issue of international terrorist threats. I am concerned, I think as we all are, about a resurgence in threats from international terrorism in the face of a potential resurgence of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. What processes and procedures does the Department of Homeland Security need to have in place to identify, monitor, investigate, and disrupt international terrorist threats?
Senator Hassan, we have an Office of Intelligence and Analysis that focuses on this very issue. That is appropriately an issue of concern to you, and of course, one of ours. That's why we maintain vigilance in addressing it. Our Office of Intelligence and Analysis works with the entire intelligence community in identifying the threat of international terrorism. What we really need, the Senate to do, is to confirm our nominated Undersecretary for Intelligence and Analysis, who served as the Homeland Security advisor under President Bush, who's a former United States attorney and eminently qualified to lead that critical office at this time.
Thank you. Now I want to turn to our cybersecurity. Earlier this year, Senator Cornyn and I reintroduced our bill codifying the Continuous Diagnostics and Mitigation Program, or what's known as CDM. CDM is supposed to provide foundational cybersecurity capabilities to all federal agencies, such as the ability to quickly and accurately know all of the devices on an agency networks. Without the foundational capabilities provided by CDM, other federal cybersecurity efforts will be ineffective at best. Mr. Secretary, the Department's proposed budget requests approximately $67 million more for CISA to run the CDM program than Congress appropriated earlier this year. How would the additional investment be used to ensure that all federal agencies have the foundational cyber capabilities provided by the CDM program as soon as possible?
Senator Hassan, we so very much appreciate your support of CDM, continuous diagnostics and mitigation. It is a critical tool. We have been pushing it out across the federal enterprise. We have been issuing binding operational directives to make sure that other federal agencies and departments within our purview, as the leader of the .gov environment, the civilian .gov environment, implement the cybersecurity measures that they can. We communicate known vulnerabilities and allow those federal agencies to close them. So we very much appreciate your support and are pushing CDM throughout the federal enterprise.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's extremely important that we protect the cybersecurity of our nation's critical infrastructure, too. We talked about our own federal agencies' cyber infrastructure, but critical infrastructure is a whole nother concern. And that's why I've worked with my colleagues in both parties to create a state and local cybersecurity grant program in last year's infrastructure bill to protect government-owned computer systems and critical infrastructure such as public schools and water utilities. That grant program is currently being rolled out, and I'd be interested in hearing any update you have on the progress in rolling out those grants. I'm also interested in a new critical infrastructure cybersecurity grant program that the Department proposed in its budget. How will this new grant program complement the state and local cybersecurity grant program? How will the Department effectively prioritize which critical infrastructure entities receive grants so that the grants will have the most impact?
Senator Hassan, the program that is in effect right now, the state and local grant program, is to equip state and local jurisdictions with the resources they need to strengthen their respective jurisdictions. The critical infrastructure grant program that we propose would be a complement to that, quite frankly, to focus on those elements of critical infrastructure that are target-rich and resource-poor. We have to be mindful of the fact that the majority of our country's critical infrastructure actually rests in the hands of the private sector. So it's an extraordinarily important complementary program.
Well, thank you. And I will submit for the record a question I have concerning your efforts, the Department's efforts on Russian sanction evasion. Now, as I am looking at our order here, I believe, given who's in the room, Senator Scott